and welcome to Page Turners, a bookish podcast. Each week we choose a different book and then we come together and we talk about it. Think of us as your book club tributes. You can read along with us and berate us for our wrong opinions and cheer us on we get it right. Fair warning, there'll be spoilers. That's Liv.
And that's Amy.
How are you?
Well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good. Let's think how the week has been. We actually spent some time outside of the podcast together on Monday.
I thought you were going to say we spent some time apart, and I was like, did we?
We don't do that.
We did. We did. We went to a pub quiz.
We did.
You and Rory graciously invited Alex and I along to help you lose at a pub quiz.
Yeah. We did okay for our first time.
We were doing so well until the guy just pulled out that sketchy round of records.
Yeah, and I feel like those people were very much expecting that round. So maybe that's a repeating thing. I
do think Rory did sort of try and prep us for that because he did say, like, this guy owns the record shop in town.
Yeah.
But when I say records, guys, I literally mean, like, about measurements of records.
It was.
And, like, the diameters of certain records and the best-selling LPs and singles.
The single and then...
Which we had a good guess at,
did.
but... God, and when the first LP was made versus when it was introduced, it was a bit of a shit show around.
It was tough, and he was trying to promote his own little world record day thing.
It was something, but it sounded really cute, and I was really sad we couldn't go.
I went.
Did you?
Yeah, we went. Well, we didn't really go as such, but we were in town, and it was happening, and we heard some live music for a little bit, which was quite cool. Yeah, so that was nice. What else has happened this week? Just work. Not very exciting.
Amy, when are you going to quit your job and do this full time with me?
As soon as I possibly can.
As soon as people start subscribing to that Patreon.
You haven't already. You're getting yourself organised for your big trip away?
Yeah.
How's that going?
No. Half the suitcase is packed. It's just stressing me out. I bought some packing cubes.
Nice.
I saw a friend yesterday. They're off to Japan.
Lovely.
And she was like, oh yeah, I just got some packing cubes. And I've always wanted packing cubes. I've just thought they were fascinating, and she's just tipped me over the edge. So now I have to take everything out to then put it back in the packing cubes when they arrive tomorrow.
I think that's when the hysteria of packing for a big trip kicks in, when you start buying things like packing cubes.
Yep, probably.
Yeah.
I'll let you know how it goes. It'll probably be a rant.
Are you doing it with the packing cubes being used as like all t-shirts are in one cube, or are you doing outfits per cube?
Oh, so, well, another thing that Bez did that she showed me was, like, she took photos of her outfits.
Ooh,
so
the organisation.
Yeah, it was mad, so that she knew, like, what she was pairing together, and I think that's a great idea, because at the moment I've just shoved a load of t-shirts in.
Yeah, I'm at risk of that sometimes. Yeah.
And I'm just there like, it'll be fine. And then I get there and I'm like, this doesn't go. Why? Where's my other t-shirt?
And I hate what I'm wearing, and now I don't want to go.
Yeah, 100%. Which is,
go out.
It's difficult because you know you're in Australia, so you're already there. But but yeah, it's fine. It's just a bit difficult because we don't fly until a week on Wednesday, but we're going down to Southampton first, a few days before the wedding in London, and then also spending some time with Alex's mum and dad before we fly.
Lovely.
So I'm having to pack a week in advance for when I would normally need to.
Okay, and then you probably won't need the same kinds of clothes.
Going to be an autumn in Australia when we get there. I'm actually sort of packing clothes I'd normally be wearing now.
That's actually quite nice.
Yeah, I know, but what am I going to wear for the next week? I did have to prep Alex's mum and dad, being like, I'm going to look like shit for the first week.
Yeah, I'm sure they won't mind. Have you got a lot planned with them? Have you got days out, evenings out?
Hopefully, thankfully not. No.
Nice.
No.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. Then you're off. Big flight. Really big flight. How are you feeling about that?
I'm not bad. I'm not a really bad flyer.
Okay.
The concept of being stuck inside a tin can in the sky for a really long time. So the first leg's 14 hours.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, we've got the iPad, we've got the Switch, we've got everything. I've loaded every single book I could possibly think of onto the Kindle.
Yeah.
I'll be pre-reading books for the podcast, doing some homework on the way out. So it'll be fine.
That'll be fine. I think the longest I've ever flew without stopping was 10. And that got tough around 7 hours in, I think.
Yeah, I think when you still think I've got 3 hours left and you get into your own head of like, God, 3 hours is a long time. 3 hours, minutes aren't even ticking by at this rate.
When you start thinking how many more films you can watch, like you think, okay, another 2 potentially. This is tough.
We've got a load of Grey's Anatomy downloaded, and I think that's going to be good because there's about 3 or 4 episodes, and before we know it, because it's a binge-watchy kind of show, it'll be like 3 hours in, and we're like, oh cool, all we've done is watch Grey's Anatomy, let's go on to one of our other myriad of activities.
Yeah, so many activities.
Yeah, that was the plan. Last year when we flew to Mauritius, it was about 10-11 hours, and that was like we didn't have near enough activities.
Did you do that thing where you think you're going to fall asleep?
Oh, yeah. We had to force ourselves, tried to force myself to go to sleep and didn't.
Yeah.
But this time, I know I do need to sleep on the first flight.
But if you've got enough to do if you don't fall asleep.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. That sounds like a good position to be in.
I definitely won't be stressing if I'm not asleep.
No. Of course
Winks to camera. But yeah.
I was reading something the other day and it was discussion around reclining your chair.
Oh.
So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this.
Oh. I get irrationally angry when anybody reclines their chair.
Me too. That's fine. We're in the same camp. That's okay.
And I know, but that's the thing. I know I shouldn't because
Me
I know
too.
it is a perfectly right. Here's the thing. Here's where I stand on it. Official stance on
Right. We need it on the
reclining
podcast.
chair.
It
Yeah.
is here.
Yeah, the intro
being
bit's already
recorded
5 minutes
filmed.
longer than it should be. Official stance,
Mhm.
and I'll say that obviously we might be the same,
Mhm.
we might not be, but
Mhm.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say this is the official page turner's stance.
Okay, will correct you if it's different, but I'm not getting the vibe it's going to be.
I don't mind if somebody reclines their chair to sleep. It's when they recline their chair to continue watching the fucking film, or
Yes.
like, I don't mind if they're like, oh, and I'll doze off with the film in the background or whatever.
Mhm.
But when they're just either the plane's up and they're like, oh, I'm reclining my chair now, or like,
Mhm.
I hate that.
I totally agree.
Because then I have to recline my chair.
Exactly.
And then I have to be a massive bastard to the person
People
behind
behind
me.
you.
And I know that's the whole point. But then I think to myself, what about the person at the very, very back
They can't recline.
who can't recline as much? Because that's us. We've paid for those seats on the second leg.
Mhm. I'm fine with it if you, as you say, if you're going to sleep. If it's a night flight
Mhm.
and the cabin lights are being dimmed, I'm absolutely 100% okay with you reclining your chair because I'm likely going to be doing the same. However, I am extremely tall, and it is painful when people recline right into your knees.
Yeah.
It hurts.
Yeah.
So please be a bit more thoughtful, guys, if you are.
Putting out into the universe for the person in front of me on the flights.
The thing is, I have never spoke to one person in real life who has ever said, oh, I think it's okay to recline your chair. Everyone I speak to gets irrationally annoyed by it. So I'm like, who are these people that do it? Because
very
most
fair.
flights I take, you've got a recliner.
Do you know what do you know what I'm going to go out and say I hate more than a recliner?
Mm.
A kicker.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody kicking the back of your chair or
Mm.
consistently moving. Like for the whole flight.
Adjust.
Or like, but like crossing and uncrossing
Yeah.
and like you know, the awkward moment of like kicking the back and oh sorry, you know,
Yeah,
a few
yeah.
times fine because I appreciate it's a 13-hour flight, you're going to want to adjust.
Mm.
But if it's a child and they're just I'm gonna have to say something, and I am not the kind of personality that wants to say something.
No. We had to say something on a flight we took a few years ago with Rudy's parents because someone put their jacket over the back of their own chair and it blocked our TV screen, his mum, and we had to be like, sorry, I don't know if you realise, but this has affected us.
I love how like passive aggressive that is. Like, I'm sorry, I don't know if you've realised, but it's a big but there.
Exactly. How have you not managed to realise?
You can see yours. Oh,
yeah. They were okay. They weren't apologetic. They didn't say sorry. But
I would have
just
been
kind of
mortified.
moved it.
I'd have been more. I don't know. I'm so sorry.
I know.
I accidentally reclined my chair on a flight to Belfast.
Mhm.
I was like, oh, what does this button do?
Oh no! And even that one little second, you hate yourself.
Yeah, and I immediately put it straight back up, and I had to turn around and through the gap and be like, I am so sorry.
I'm not that person. Can I just say?
I just pressed this button because unfortunately I've got a type of personality that was like, what does this button do? Click, 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 click.
Yeah.
Anyway, on with the podcast.
Let's get into it.
Oh, I was going to ask what you were reading.
Oh right, okay, yeah. So I am reading, because I've got a brand. We've got the
Oh yeah, no, you have to put yourself out there.
horror girly. Have to keep representing. So I'm reading Into the Drowning Deep by Myra Grant.
Ooh, is it spoopy?
I wouldn't say it's supernatural. I would say it's more of a creature feature. So it's sirens.
Ooh. You
but
love the open sea.
I love the open sea, but I would never like to be in it.
Yes.
There we go. But it's sirens if they were how you could imagine sirens to be. Like there's no kind of lovely
no
Little Mermaid,
sexiness, but yeah.
sexy element to it. Nothing like that. Not saying Little Mermaid's sexy, just to caveat that.
We aren't pedophiles.
There was a very much a dash there, but this is like there was. I think it was just like a research vessel that got lost. They were doing a documentary on it. It got lost. They were looking for sirens. Did they find them? What happened? And then we've got different people who were related or had relationships with the original crew who want to go and find
of course,
what happened.
Right, of course, because people are glutton for punishment.
Of course. Brilliant.
Amazing.
What are you reading?
I am reading Reckless Vows by Rebecca Ross.
Oh,
The sequel to Divine Rivals.
aha.
I'm halfway through.
Great. I've heard it's a very good audiobook.
Oh, I
Yeah.
am not listening to it. I am reading it on the Kindle. I started it last night and
How are
I
you
am
finding
halfway
it?
through.
Oh, well, that's good.
It's not a bad thing. I am whizzing through it because it is basically exactly the same as the first
Do you know,
one.
I had a real fear it was going to be.
And don't get me wrong, we're getting a little bit more Dacre. So we're getting
Okay,
more of the other
okay.
god. And we got a little POV chapter from Enver at the very beginning, sort of the
Ooh.
prologue.
Nice.
But yeah, we are getting the same magic typewriters correspondence where he now doesn't know who she is.
Oh, is it like angsty pining, or is it a bit?
I think things have happened a bit too fast, but
Okay.
yeah, we'll see how the end finishes. I'm enjoying it because I love the world and I'm invested in the characters.
Mhm.
But I think if it wasn't a 5-star read for you, the second one will not also be a 5-star read.
Okay.
And that's all I'll say.
Okay.
Into it?
Mhm.
Ooh.
Liv,
Yes, Amy.
what are we reading this week?
This week we're reading Poster Girl by Veronica Roth.
Mm-hmm.
Big old dystopian baby.
I forgot how much I enjoy dystopian fiction.
Same, me too. And I also don't think it's very much around as much anymore.
Right, I was thinking this because I had a bit of a I went back in time and I thought to myself, right, what have you read that's dystopian?
Mhm.
When did you read it? And it was very much the Hunger Games time.
The Hunger Games.
Yep. Divergent. Lovely. I'm glad we're filming.
I didn't want to whistle too loudly down the microphone.
Got to think of our levels.
Mm.
So why did it kind of blow up? Because dystopian fiction was really, really popular for quite a kind of specific period of time.
Yeah, I want to say like 2004 to the 2010s,
Yeah, I think that's
maybe a
fair.
6-year period. I might be
Mhm.
stretching that a bit much, but then I
Yep.
think we got the films then again as well.
Okay,
But-
so maybe it
but if
felt longer.
But if we talk books,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, obviously our friend Suzanne Collins,
Big Sue.
and Big Sue, that's what we call her. And you've got Veronica Roth,
Uh-huh.
and those are the sort of the big players
Yep.
as far as I was concerned.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't know why it popped off. I think it was, I don't know.
There wasn't anything, was there, that sort of triggered that? I don't think that I can think of.
No, I
No.
shouldn't say. Maybe just the trends, like we're now doing we're now in a bit of a trend of like romantasy is
Mhm.
huge. So
Yes.
maybe
yeah.
we'll see dystopian again. But kudos to Veronica because this only came out in 2021.
Yeah, I read the acknowledgements at the end, and she was talking about how she wrote it at a really difficult part of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Only 6 months in, and obviously there was no vaccine, and it was a really uncertain time.
And that
so-
too felt like a dystopian
Yeah,
time,
it
so
did.
makes sense, yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, big up Veronica for bringing it back.
Absolutely.
And
Big fan.
boy did she.
Oh boy, did she! And adults, right? Sort of new adult.
Yeah, I definitely
dystopian.
think not as potentially complex as it could be for adults, but also at a higher level of thinking than YA for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Were you a big fan of dystopian books as a child, as a teenager? When did you get into them?
Yeah, I think Hunger Games was
Okay.
my but then
Mhm.
before that, Uglies by Scott
Yeah.
Westerfeld. Uglies,
Mm.
pretties, specials, extras.
Yes.
And I think we might have spoken about this before.
Mm-hmm.
The ending to specials made no sense. So Scott, long-time listener, we know you're in there. You know you're out there. Can you please give us a call and tell us what the fuck happened?
Yeah. Very. Yeah. Interesting. I can't think where that was supposed to be going at the end of that. And I was the same as you. I thought, oh, extras is out. I didn't realise that.
Yeah,
This is going to clear everything up for me.
completely different story.
No.
Yeah, so if you guys aren't familiar with the Uglies trilogy,
Mhm.
basically until you're 16 you're considered ugly
Yes.
and you're like you live in poverty,
Mm-hmm.
and then at 16 you get this plastic surgery
Yes.
transformation and you get to become beautiful,
Yes.
or what is considered beautiful in that
Mhm.
society, and then you get to move to the beautiful town with the beautiful people.
Yes.
And like then yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And then I mean all the resistance is full of uglies.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I mean we don't need to get into it obviously, of course, because that's a completely different book
It's
we're
been a long
discussing.
time
But
since I read it.
like
But, yeah.
I don't remember why there were some uglies.
As in, why did they not become pretties?
Yeah.
I think they just rebelled against the
So
system.
you got the chance to choose.
I don't think you. Oh, did you not get selected?
Did you get selected?
I don't know. There's a lot. There's a lot of element of selection in dystopian.
Very,
books.
very true. Very true.
Yeah. I also.
What else? Yeah. What else did you?
Matched by Ali Conde.
Oh no.
One where you get given like, this is who you're going to be with. You're not going to be with anybody else.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Like that.
Mhm.
It almost like, did they do it like, I'm gonna say via science, and I'm heavily
like a married at first sight thing.
but also at the same time like for breeding as well. That gives me government breeding vibes.
Breeding. Yeah. It's like a program to kind of obviously breed out certain qualities and things.
Oh, I think I might have just thought of another one. The Chemical Garden trilogy.
No, don't, not.
If you have any more, please, and I will have a look.
Delirium by Lauren Oliver.
Is that somebody in a big bubble on the front?
No, that's what Matched is.
Oh, okay, there you go
Yeah.
then. All right, so I've seen the cover to that. I do not know what Delirium is either.
Delirium is where love is illegal.
Oh.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my god. Yeah, the Chemical Garden trilogy by Lauren Di
Okay.
Wither, Fever, Sever.
Oh no, that does sound quite.
The cover is
familiar.
stunning.
Let me see the cover. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they're like, there's a few women to every man.
Okay.
And the men are rich, and then they go and they be the wives, but like,
Mhm.
and then she falls in love with someone else.
Yes.
And
yeah.
I don't know though, because I actually, now that I remember, I think it might be a love triangle. And
I think Matched is. I was just about to say that to you because I'm pretty
Oh.
sure in her case, the main character's case. So how it works, I think, is when you get to a certain age, you go to this government facility potentially, and you turn on a screen, and it flashes up who you're matched
oh yeah,
with, and you get their information and the picture of them, and you might recognise them because it could be someone that you have grown up with or whatever. And it's someone she's never seen before.
fun.
And then her like childhood best friend flashes up after it, so she's been matched almost to like two people.
Oh, of
Yeah,
course
yeah.
it is. Of
Mhm.
course it is.
Yeah.
It's that classic. Even in dystopian, which is new and fun and exciting,
Yeah.
the main character, the female main character, has
Exactly.
some sort of different powers. Divergent as well.
That's it.
But at least the concept there is it's not just her. Some of them are all divergent.
True. Yeah.
We haven't actually spoken about Divergent, obviously being Veronica Roth's first little foray into dystopian. I haven't read, I don't think, past the second one.
Oh, I think I read 3.
So you read Allegiant.
Yes.
I haven't read past Insurgent.
Okay. Have you watched the films?
I've watched the first film and I
Okay.
think the second film, and I'm pretty sure they fucked the third film.
I can't even remember if they made a third one.
Well, that's the thing. I said this to Alex. I was like, I think they made it, but it
Mm.
was shit, so they sent it straight to TV.
That would make sense.
Or it became, I think, and then did they try and do something on television? I don't know, but yeah, no, apparently it was a
Maybe.
big old shit show.
I went to the cinema to see the first one,
Me too, I
but
think.
not the second one, and definitely not the third one.
No, none of
Yeah,
those things.
Okay.
But yes, but Poster Girl, I think, is something a little different. It
Oh yeah.
definitely focuses less on our female main character as an immediate romance interest, and we almost get like a sort of redemption story.
Yeah. So, Poster Girl, we aren't in the heart of the dystopian government anymore. We're not
No.
the way typically you would be joining the story when the main characters are in this regime.
Yep.
We would get the world established that way.
And they get pulled into the rebellion.
Yes.
Of course. Because of
Something
course they do.
happens. Yeah.
I just want to write a novel where somebody just toes the line. Like
yeah.
and they just get to watch as Katniss Everdeen runs past, and they're like,
Yeah.
I'm glad that's not my
Yeah,
life.
Like, what idiot? Just conform and I'll be fine. Yeah. Whereas in this story, there has been a rebellion.
Yep.
And we get to see the aftermaths of for the people who were part of that dystopian regime.
Yeah.
But who actually quite enjoyed it. They didn't get the rough end of the stick.
We do, and I think it's tough because there's then a thing where, when they all get put into the aperture, and it's there's so much like eye symbolism all the way through the novel, and it's so cleverly written. It's almost like a living prison. It's a cell. It's a bunch of flats, a bunch of like buildings. I imagined the buildings in Glasgow,
like a tenement.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
bunch of tenements, with a wall around it.
Yeah. Fair enough.
And but then they're starting to release the children, or the ones that were children that went in, and they almost, because they need to be seen to be lenient.
So we had the delegation.
Yes.
That was the dystopian regime.
Oh, I love that you remember everything and I never
loved
do.
it so much.
I would like to say my lack of memory has nothing to do with the fact that I did not love it, but just in one ear, out the other. Just vibes.
Just what? Yeah, just like, this is fun. Yeah, and then we had the rebellion. Did they have a name? Yes, they did. The
Triumvirate, yeah, because they're representatives, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. And basically, the regime breaks down, and the children of the delegation, or people who were involved in that sort of government, are not killed if they basically give themselves up and agree to be imprisoned forever. Yeah,
and I think definitely some of them are making the most of it. That's what the sort of the vibe we get, is that some of them are making the most of it. Some of them are just drinking themselves into oblivion, sort of trying to cause havoc within the aperture, and some of them are, you know, resigned to their fate.
Who do you blame? Because at the beginning, there's a part of the story where they mention Sonia, the main character, says they were looking at it to begin with as a utopia, a chance for them to create their own society.
Oh, what, the aperture?
Yeah.
Oh.
And then it didn't happen like that, because it's quite depressing. Like, it seems like quite a depressing place.
Yeah, no, without actually, I think...
Is it their fault, do you think? Do you think that they let themselves kind of be, like, beaten down and didn't really try? Or do you think that actually the Triumvirate were being inherently cruel to them?
I think it's a middle point. I think it's neither. Controversial. I think it's the fact that the Triumvirate needed to be seen to punish them. Yeah. But then those punishments needed to continue in the form of the fact that they're not going to get the same quality of life. You know, I think she says in the beginning that at first there was regular deliveries. Yeah. And then those deliveries started not coming. And I think, you know, maybe that utopia could have continued with a renewed sort of consistent deliveries and a sort of a fair treatment of prisoners. But at the same time, I don't think, you know, they talk about, like, she brings a tin peaches to the farewell party to her friend that's getting released. Yeah. You know, she's been saving them. Yeah. And it's that sort of, like, scarcity and, you know... and
I think they get donations from people living outside the aperture. Yeah. They can donate, like, clothes, food, canned goods, etc. Yeah. But it sounds like, as you say, they either don't donate very much or they don't top up the donations. And when they do deliver the donations, they don't put them into food parcels and share them equally. They just leave them in a big pile, don't they? And be like, you fight for what you need. Very cornucopia of the Hunger Games. Yeah. And then I thought it was quite interesting because the world outside the aperture, we're supposed to see this as it's the you know, we've kind of had the horrendous time of the delegation, and this is the happy ending as such.
That's the better world, yeah.
But it sounds...
Well, it's I think we get a really interesting view with Sonia because she's done... Well, she lives in all three worlds, right? Yeah. She lives delegation, where she lives outside of the aperture because it doesn't exist at that point, but, like, in this utopia that the delegation thinks it is... Post-rebellion, she lives in the aperture and she knows how horrible that is. But then coming out, I think it's quite underwhelming for her. Like, and it's overwhelming, but in a sense of that she's not used to it. Yeah. But it's underwhelming in that it's not, you know, what did they even fight for? I feel like sometimes she thinks, you know.
Yes, because we eventually learn at the end how horrendous the delegation are.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think, because Sonia doesn't know, we don't know what's so terrible about it. Yeah. For quite a long time.
Yeah, and even in her flashbacks, like, well, Sonia's about, how long has she been? She's about 27?
Yeah, I think that's
fair. Yeah, she's just a bit too old to have been put into the aperture. She's 17 when she's put into the aperture. Yes. So I think they almost try her as an adult. Which is why she isn't going to be released.
Yeah, anyone who was a child when they were put in the aperture is released as part of this Children of the Delegation Act that comes into place.
And they get given new identities and get to sod off and not have to worry about this.
Just misses it.
And I also think the fact that she was the poster girl for the delegation is really against her. What was it? It was about, because her flashbacks are... as a child, she isn't fully realising how bad the delegation is. So those flashbacks aren't actually telling us much either until she finds out towards the end of the book. Bit of an unreliable narrator in that sense.
So we have almost like a gamification of society, right?
Yes.
So we have
the Des
coin.
coins.
So this is currency. Is this it? This is the only currency that they have.
Yeah, though we do find out later on that there's a black market where you can trade like mustard.
Right.
Mustard is the thing, is it?
Yeah, that's right. Like non-perishable,
But non-perishable
like,
goods, yeah.
goods that you would never really think to use. Like they're not that common.
I
sort of
hate
thing.
mustard, so if any,
Yeah, not
that would
that
definitely flag up on a government thing. That would be on my profile. Hates mustard, but she's bought 20. Oh, rebellion, part of the rebellion. Get her
Yeah.
out. I'd never survive.
You would never
I'd break
survive.
straight away.
Purely because of your mustard
my
preferences.
mustard hate. I have to remember to mention whenever I'm in front of some sort of government building
Mhm.
or if the government's listening. I'll say into my phone now, God, I just love mustard. I'm going to get so many ads for mustard now.
You are. Yeah, so we've
Yeah,
gamified
Des coins.
this.
Mhm.
Des coins are in place.
Does
and
Des stand for anything?
I don't know. I was trying to think of the name and why she chose to call it that.
Des coin. DES
DES
coin.
Des coin. No idea. Don't
No.
know. If you know, let us know.
Yeah, I don't think there's ever an explanation.
Don't think so.
And if there was, Amy would know, so.
Yeah, apparently I would have remembered it. So you lose Des coin for things that are seen to be
Immoral.
yeah.
Or,
Or
what
just like,
what the government dictates is immoral.
And then you gain them for doing what's right is right, because that's the
Yeah.
slogan, isn't it, of the delegation. It's very 1984, isn't it?
Little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Big Brother is watching.
Yes. So I think it starts off potentially the idea is that if you commit a crime, you lose Des coin.
Yeah, it's probably started off fairly not dissimilar to our own sort of, world.
I'll talk about that in a minute. I've got
Yeah.
questions for you.
Oh no.
And then it kind of very quickly snowballs to even if you used a plate and you don't wash up after yourself,
Yeah.
you lose Des coin.
The bit that really struck me is when she considers her mother says something about against the government,
Mm-hmm.
and she weighs up in her head
Yeah.
the positives of getting the Des coin for calling out her mother for, potential treason versus disrespecting her elders. So trying to figure out whether she'd come out in profit
Yeah.
as to would she get more for that
Yeah.
versus that.
I love
Incredible.
that idea of that mental checks and balances that she has to do all the time with any decision that she makes.
Do you feel like that would be every character, or did you feel like Sonia, because I think they mentioned that she's particularly good at following rules?
Yes, I think that is a trait for sure, but I also like the fact that we found out that basically different Des coin is weighted differently
Yes,
depending
that whole
on how
thing.
you're being moulded, right?
Mm.
And because she's meant to be this subservient like wife.
Wife.
Yeah.
Ugh.
She'll lose more Des coin for being difficult, disrespectful, sort
Yeah.
of thinking differently than someone else might.
God, I've forgotten about that. That's so even more manipulative on a whole other level.
Yeah.
What book, man? What a world.
Oh, I know we probably will struggle to talk about the plot in a linear way with this one because there's just so much concept and
Yeah.
just
Nobody comes for us for non-tangents or linear thinking.
Also, you're supposed to have read it if you're listening to this. Come on, please.
And if you haven't, just enjoy the ride.
yeah, if you haven't read it.
Oh yeah, so true. Stop right now listening to this. Go and read the book. It's not very long.
No,
How
it's
many
not.
pages is it? Like, it's 269.
Did you do it in one sitting?
2, I think.
Two. I think I was the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, you said you had some questions for me.
Yes, so it sounds as if the reason that the Des coin became so, I guess, sort of pernickety about what it was, how it was fining and rewarding people, was because it was a programme that was AI.
Yes. Okay, yeah, go on.
Okay. So how far away do you think we would be from something like that?
Oh, not at all. It's completely believable.
Scary, right?
Right, like,
you're reading it
that's-
feeling afraid
that-
because I was.
That's why I think so many of the dystopian novels that I've read
Mm-hmm.
are the ones that I find better, are the ones that are the most believable. Like the
yeah.
ones where you're like, yeah, no, I can see us going here. I can see us going here now.
Yeah.
Like,
if they wanted to start doing this
they could,
this
yeah.
week,
It was.
it could happen.
I'll tell you what I think is probably the most believable bit is the snitching on your neighbours and shit. Like
Yeah.
that. If you incentivize that, I mean, obviously it would go up for anyone, but people do it now. Like COVID, man, was such a crazy time where people were just telling and reporting on their neighbours.
Yeah, no, totally.
At the drop of a hat, people were just like, I think it's within definitely certain people's natures to be inquisitive and to be like, oh, what's going on at number 6 or whatever, which I think is a perfectly rational thing to think. But you take it one step further and you monetize it and you start giving like government rewards, it would turn so ugly so fast.
Do you think it's the reward element, or do you think it's the fear of the punishment? Because in this story it sounds as if they're afraid to lose too much desk coin, because eventually
poverty.
Yeah.
I think both, but I also think there's also an element of people love power. And people love to have that power and control of their own elements of power, like
their little kingdom that they can
that's
have.
it. People go mad with such the smallest amounts of power that I think this would drive people on their own, and after a while they probably wouldn't even need to monetize it that much, because people would just have it set, you know, like, oh, you know, little notebooks would be going around, what you doing, what this. I think it would tap into the very worst of us, and that's probably why it's so terrifyingly good, right?
Yeah, definitely. The part that really affected me, made me feel so sorry for Sonia, who was an incredibly complex character.
Yeah.
Was when she went into the sort of government files, because everybody had a file.
I've got a question to ask you about this, but
and she realised, so she thought she was the poster girl of the delegation, that she was maybe held in quite a high regard by them, that they appreciated her efforts, how good she was. And then she read it, and basically it just said she's pretty, you know, there's not much to say about her. Not very clever, not very won't really make much of her life. Not very forward thinking, good for breeding, or good for good mother material, and really good at following rules and regulations. I completely agree. I felt sorry for her, but then also there was a sick part of me that was like, I think young her would have loved to have heard that. Like, not necessarily the stuff about her not being very clever, but like, the praise that she would get from being told that she's really good at rules and regulations and stuff. It's so sad, you know, that indoctrination's happened to her at such a young age, and it's held up by her family. Oh yeah, I mean, her father, the worst. We find out he's a bit of a non-character, I think, but then he does come across as a good man to her, because obviously we see her views of him as a father, and then we watch that all come crashing down when we realise at the end of the book that he's taking unsanctioned children and killing them for their implant, to do experiments on their implants, right? Yeah, because basically because you're only allowed to have one child unless you submit a permit to a delegation. And it's the rich that get because Sonia's got a sister. Sonia is the second sister. Yeah, that's right. So we have that happen, we've got that side of things, and then obviously her dad does love her and her sister and his family, but that's where it stops. I know, and it's so interesting because he doesn't sound like a terrible person in her eyes at all. No, but that's why I think it's so jarring. It's why I never saw it coming. No, nor did I. And the justification is just that basically, if they so to go back to the idea of the second child, second child is taken away if they're illegal, if there's no permit. Yes, and they're said to be like adopted to a family that can't have them, right, basically. If they're young enough. However, if they're old enough to realise that they have been stolen from the original family and sort of rehomed, then they're killed, because they can't possibly have that memory of their old family, because it will make them think badly of the delegation. And that's where her dad comes in. That's his role, to take these children away to the middle of the woods and kill them with Sol. S-O-L? Oh, yeah. Love that scene where like euthanasia drug, basically. It's her family at the beginning. We get it in a flashback, and you're not obliquely told that they're killing themselves, but it's very much, we're all sat at a table. Her mother sings the song, and I'm just like, fuck me, this looks like a cult. Yes, it was really scary. Actually, that was a really harrowing scene. I want to know, like, at what point did they realise? Because when I first read it, I was like, well, clearly Sonia hasn't taken this pill. So I was really fascinated to see if she pretends to take it, which I think we find out she does. Yeah, I thought it went wrong, though. Like, when I was reading it, I thought, why would Sonia, this child who is really great, you know, she's conforms, she doesn't really have much original thought, we think. Yeah. Why would she not take it? Yeah. And then there's that moment of glimmer of like, oh, she's not as subservient as we think she is. Yeah. But so clever. I was really waiting
for the moment. I thought instead of a very quiet death for all of them, it was going to be quite like panicky and crazy because they realised she hadn't taken it. But I loved the way it was done, and I think even creepier because Veronica's written it where it's a happy drug. You go out happy and they're all laughing, and
it's like this induced euphoria.
Yeah,
that
terrifying.
Happens before you die, and then they just slump forward basically, and that's it. And then she's discovered by the revolution, and that's when she's taken and put into the aperture. Yeah, interesting.
The question I have for you.
Okay.
So you mentioned the records when Sonia's given this deal to find Grace, this young girl who was taken from her family, not killed, rehomed, and they've just had a call from her, and this department's last sort of restoration to get this girl back. So she's been enlisted to help for the chance of her freedom.
Yeah.
And the first time she gets outside of the aperture and returns to the world, she goes to two places. She goes to her home, or what is left of her home. And she goes to the records and searches her family out and searches herself out. What would you do first?
I think I would definitely go to my home.
You want to go home first,
yeah? I want to go home. And I loved, so sad, when she goes and then she gets all these tiny little trinkets of nothing from her childhood that just look like junk.
That's it. She doesn't go for riches. She goes for the when they didn't have much money and her mum made napkin rings, but they were just bits of paper or something. Yeah.
And I think that just showed you how much that, yes, she was a child of the delegation. She was all very much convinced and taken in by it, but she also loved her family.
Yeah, and also still a child.
Yeah.
And no matter how much she revelled in the things that caused people pain, she never saw that pain, ultimately.
I think the thing is, she probably did know. I'm sure in a part of her did know this isn't good for the people that don't follow the rules. But she's a child and she's motivated by praise, and you can understand
she has a praise king.
Yeah. And so I think I would go home, for sure, especially if your family had died. You would want to find something that you could hold on to, some memory. And you'd also have that sick kind of fascination, right, to see what they had done to it, like what had became of it.
And it had definitely been ransacked and sort of graffitied and stuff. Would you look at your own record?
Yeah.
Come on, we're both curious beings. I'd need to know.
You'd need to know, right? What are they holding on me? Like, what information do they have, and why were they holding it? And
what did they think of me?
Yeah.
Even if it's from pure hubris, I'd want to know. You know.
Yeah. Would you have went home?
Yeah. Ties that bind, man. Like, I would have absolutely 100% gone back. I love that she gets chastised for it as well when she gets back, and we get Alex, her sort of representative. And also a bit of a fancy man back in the day. She's betrothed to his younger brother. It turns out that he has betrayed his family. Yeah. Which, we'll get onto that in a moment.
We'll get onto that, but
berates her for not starting looking for Grace. And she's like, well, I went to the records and, what do you think I could possibly do that you can't?
Yeah. And to be fair, she finds something in the records because she finds that they have been buying...
Yes, she does.
Strange, like mustard and other things, and she instantly thinks, that's a bit weird. Why would you spend money on that?
Yeah, I don't understand why he's so confused by it.
In a way, he becomes what she has been, doesn't he? Because he's always a bit like, oh, well, how did you not know? Well, obviously she wasn't affected by it. She had a comfortable life. Her father was high in the delegation. She was the poster girl. She had quite a privileged existence. That's why she didn't know. Yeah. How did you not know she was suffering in the aperture? You just assumed that things were fine for her.
Exactly, yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah, no, you're right. He becomes and he also becomes very rule-oriented. Yeah. And he becomes what she was and what he probably ultimately didn't care for in the end. Yeah. Let's talk about the insight.
Yes. So how do they know what decision people are making so they can charge?
It's a Google Glass embedded into your face.
Into your brain, yeah.
I was fascinated. I mean, obviously I wasn't fascinated by the science, but I was fascinated by the fact it grows with you.
Yeah, it's like organic. Oh. Yeah, so I think Veronica said it was like part technology, part organic matter, and as your brain develops, it develops with it.
Yes, as far as I'm aware, it's almost like a white ringed contact lens. Yeah. Sort of that's the vision of it. And it's implanted into your brain and you see another world around it. Like, you see screens, you can
Mhm.
send each other messages. It's a Google Glass inside your eye,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, it is.
If that had ever taken off. But
Yeah.
that also, you see like your des coins and bling, 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 bling. I just imagined whenever she did something right,
Me
she gets
too.
like that casino noise
Yeah.
of like bling, bling,
Or it
bling,
was like
bling, bling, bling.
Sonic, you know, like when he bumps into like a spike and then all the rings pop out of him. It's like that. So we have the insight. We think you can turn the insight off.
Yes, that is what the triumvirate has been telling people, is that because when Sonia goes outside, she's one of the only people with an insight still
Yeah.
intact.
Uh-huh.
But no, they've just turned the light off.
Literally.
How have they? And I love that they've just scarred people as well.
Yeah, to make them think that, don't worry, it's been taken care of, because you have a little scar under your eye, don't you, if
Yeah.
you have had your insight
Like a
removed.
little snitch tear from prison.
Yeah.
Um,
But it's not possible, because to remove the insight, you would have to basically take apart someone's brain.
Yep.
And you can't be without it, because it is a part of you.
do you think, because obviously the triumvirate have given people this line that, you know, they've taken it out and everything's safer now, and they're not a nanny state or anything like that, they don't watch, do you think they were ever planning on ever removing it?
No.
No,
I don't think so.
I think it was definitely too useful for them.
Yeah.
Because what you learn is that they can still watch you.
Yes.
You can still watch everyone through it.
I think it's convenient for them to think that they have got this moral high ground, right? Of like, we would never do that, we wouldn't use it, but you still want to control these people, and it's easier to control them if you can see what they're doing all the time.
So true. So
So
true.
there's no true freedom.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, in fact, that leads us to the last line of the book.
It does.
There's no truth, but everywhere, in every direction, is freedom.
Yeah.
Which was just so wonderful.
Did you like the ending?
Yes. Let's talk quickly about the ending.
Okay.
Yes. I did. I loved the culmination of hers and Alex's romantic relationship. You saw it coming. It was really nicely done. Then I also liked that she got both. She got to be on her own and be independent and leave the city and get to go and do some sort of like labour job that she just did not really care about, but like threw herself into. She's a fast learner. She got to be away in freedom, essentially. But also they get this little tingle of the fact that maybe they're going to be together later. And yeah, it was really nice. What about you?
Loved it. Felt exactly the same. I think she obviously has a lot to do, a lot to grow on her own. She doesn't really need to be kind of tied down in a relationship right away. I don't think she's ready to be in a relationship. She needs to figure out who she is.
Yep.
So I really like the idea that she's got time to do that, and as you say, there's still the doors open, so she can.
Yeah,
she
they're
can
in
be with him.
touch.
Yeah,
and you know something about the travel laws are.
Yeah, they're lifting.
loosening.
Things
So,
sound like they're getting better.
Because she essentially blows the whistle.
Yeah.
She promises Representative Turner, one of the triumvirates, that she won't dob him in for, you know, spending being a part of complicit with her father of killing all the children and taking their insights and experimenting on them, cures their freedom, and then she does exactly that. She turns on him, and it's such a fucking queen moment.
What did you think about Naomi? Was she an evil genius? Did she know what she was doing?
We can talk about that in character.
Okay, right, we'll go with that then.
Speaking of which, okay, Naomi Proctor then. Let's kick it off.
Are you ready to start with Naomi?
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
We link.
So Naomi was the creator of the insight.
You asked me whether I thought she was evil.
Yeah, so you think when she came up with the idea, she knew it was going to be used for ill?
No, I don't think so. And I think you said a quote before we started recording that said as much, basically. It was never intended to be a way that they could have their eyes on you the whole time.
No, I think she actually wanted to use the idea of technology and organic material to potentially, it was for people who needed transplants.
Yes, that's how it began, wasn't it?
Like stem cells. It could grow a new pancreas, it could grow a new heart, or whatever it was. That was the idea, right? It could be an element of technology within that, so that people could have a new lease of life or a second chance or whatever. Yeah.
And like all good intentions,
it went horribly, horribly wrong.
The road to hell.
So before it, we had elements of what we have now, because we had mobile phones. They didn't call them mobile phones.
Oh, yes.
It began with an E.
Oh, I thought it was like blocks. I love this book so much. It took me a little while to figure out it took me a few references and a bit more of a description to figure out that she was referring to mobile phones, or what essentially we have as mobile phones. Gave me Nokia vibes. It gave me that they're all playing Snake.
Mobile phones, and they were used to help. And it was funny because I was reading it and I was like, oh, that sounds good. Oh wow, that's interesting. It was like it could tell you how to get places, and you could find out things. And then I was just looking at my Kindle app as I was reading on my phone, like, hang on a minute.
Wait a second. You're just waving in front of the camera like,
is this about us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck's sake.
And then there was also reference to something like Google Glass.
Yeah.
Where it was glasses that were kind of giving you the idea of, well, the same way that an insight works. Yep. But then people forgot them. So therefore they had to come up with an implant in someone's brain. It's like, really?
That's it though, isn't it? People have started getting, I know we're talking about character, but we'll spot and plot again. People have started getting cash apps and things implanted into their...
That's too much for me.
Into their like wrists and like back of their hands and stuff. So just wear the watch.
That's scary. Yeah.
But yeah, that sort of thing is terrifying. Any sort of body modification
with tech. Yeah, it's a bit much.
When the singularity happens and the robots rise up against us, like, you're fucked, mate.
Yeah, they're inside you. Yeah,
that's why I'm always polite to my Alexa.
Always.
I always say please. I always say thank you.
Me too.
And then I hope that she'll kill me last.
Yeah.
Look, do I inevitably want to live? Yes. But do I think that our robot overlords will ultimately let me live? No. They
might need you first, like, to be a servant. I don't know if they will. They could just have robot servants.
But is that not then... Well, do you know what? That leads us straight into our next batch of characters, the analog army.
Oh, yeah.
Bunch of hypocrites, basically.
Yeah, so they want things to go back to how they were before.
Yep.
When we didn't have insights.
Yeah, and we didn't have the e-blocks that we don't know the name of.
No. And they also have these veil...
Oh, but this is the thing. Yeah. That's part of the hypocrisy of it, right? There's... Their leader is called Myth.
Yep.
And we get this sort of vibe that he's old school. Because when Sonia goes to meet him, he's got like a record player.
It's like a big antiques shop, right? There's like things of the past littered around it.
But he talks about like, oh, you know, how it's so much better and everything. But he's wearing this veil that's clearly a bunch of tech.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I think it's any part of even a rebellion, right? You've got your diehard zealots who will be the people that won't use the technology at all.
Yeah.
And that's generally the people who are the followers at the very bottom. But then you've got the people at the top who
realise you actually need it.
Yeah, and useful. Also are happy to start the rebellion. But what is it? Do as I say, not do as I do.
Yeah. No, yeah. Totally. Okay, next scary question for you.
Oh, no, yeah.
When do you think this is set? How far in the future is the world of Poster Girl?
Ooh.
I don't think we get told, and I think that's deliberate.
Yeah, I think we could be looking at 2100.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm setting it close enough that we're dead.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think her parents experienced a world similar to ours?
Oh, we never hear anything, do we?
No.
We never hear.
Where do you think it starts? Because she's born and gets the insight put in her eye.
Oh, right. So we assume it's already
straight away, right?
Similarly established,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
That's a really interesting question. I think 21.
Yeah. So you think her
21s.
Parents had pre-insight lifetime and post, or
that would be so fascinating if they did. And I want a novella. I want a prequel
too.
novella.
Yeah.
I want it being developed, and I want it like
it dripping in that insidious way that it drips.
Oh, have you seen this new thing? Oh my god, you must get it. It's so incredible. We should talk, and how you would influence your friends and family into getting it. So good.
Does it become illegal not to have it? Because I know that the government incentivizes it and that they have a scheme where they pay people to have the insight put in. But is it then a case of it's illegal not to have one, that you can't opt out anymore?
I don't remember it being illegal, but I do remember it being like a sort of like a societal faux pas.
Okay.
Oh, you don't have the insight? Oh, it's become too ingrained in life that if you don't have one, you're a bit of a weirdo.
Yeah, like people who live off grid.
I was going to say like people who don't have Instagram, like you, Amy.
Like me. No, but people who maybe don't want to have a mobile phone.
Yeah.
And then we kind of there's almost that stigma of like, oh, they're conspiracy theorists. Like.
Oh yeah, I mean they are.
Of course, because we love our technology. Yeah. So that, I think that'd be really interesting to know, when did it all start?
Yeah. Right. Characters. Sonia. We see Sonia in, well, 2 walks of life. We see her at 17. We see her at 27. We get hints of her just post going into the aperture, sort of like drinking her life away. David, sort of that, suffering that heartbreak and loss all the way through. All her family, not much of a loss. David. Seems like, I feel like what I really liked is we only got really small snippets, because I don't think she never really talks about it, but I do get this feeling that she didn't like the person she was when she's with David, and not because of David, but because of how she acted the first few weeks or years in the aperture.
It's almost as if she goes through the stages of grief, isn't it?
Oh man, you're so insightful today. We should record it every
This
time
is me
on
on a Sunday.
Yeah. Oh.
It's like Amy's sermon. You come in.
I will pray at that church.
Thank you. Yeah, so she kind of goes in. Maybe she does feel quite optimistic to start with. Maybe they do.
I don't know. I know that there's definitely people that do, but I don't think she is optimistic.
You don't think she is?
I think she's drowning in the moonshine that they make and the drugs that they take.
So she's trying to block it all out.
I 100%, I think so. And you're right when you talk about the grief, because she's just lost her family, she's lost her whole way of life. Des coins don't exist anymore, the imprint doesn't work.
Yeah.
The saddest bit when she said she talked to the imprint,
I know.
like a friend. It
And
made
she
me
felt foolish after it. You think you shouldn't feel foolish. I think that's totally understandable. I can imagine being like that. I'm like that with Alexa.
I'm like that with
my
myself.
buddy.
Like, how do you do today, Liv? Yeah, pretty good, Liv. Yeah, great.
Yeah. And if something was in my brain showing me things, and like,
how do you not treat it as a different person?
Of course.
Yeah. I do think as well it showed us that how lonely she was, and just how desperate for that connection, and it made you sort of realize how easily you could go from living in this world and sort of then becoming completely entranced by it, by getting Aaron and having that sorted for you, and having him close to you, and like having that link, and then wanting to keep that way of life, so wanting to inevitably snitch.
And it's that guilt around wanting that, and actually you can't blame her really, because she had a great existence. And she wasn't inherently brave and looking to rock the boat and think about the morality of it, because it didn't affect her negatively. She had a good life. She had a happy family. She was going to be, was it that she was betrothed to Aaron?
Yeah, so their relationship was already planned. That's it. That you get the feeling that her family didn't really help her feel less lonely.
No.
So I think with Aaron there, that's that first genuine connection, and Alexander, his older brother, who she's intrigued by. I mean, for me, Sonia was an extremely, incredibly complex, but also really compelling main character. Probably, maybe one of my favourite main characters that we've read on the podcast.
That's fair. I mean, that is bold, but I understand.
I like being bold on a Sunday.
You do. I think the writing style really lent itself to that. It was so...
Snaps for Veronica.
Yeah. It was really bleak.
So bleak.
There wasn't really... There was not flowery at all.
No.
Words were used to be used. There was no requirement to use any other words. We didn't try, and she was really kind of careful in what she was saying. I think that's what made me feel that kind of connection with Sonia, though, was that everything felt so bleak.
Yeah.
And she felt so beaten down, and almost as if she just resigned herself to the fact that I live in the aperture now. I've got nothing kind of positive going to happen to me. But she found little things, even little things like the seeds being grown on the roof. You could see that little spark in her,
and the dress
was still there. Yeah.
I do think what Veronica did really well is, like you said, she was bleak about the setting, bleak about the existence, but the feelings that the characters had were so, not outrageous, but massive.
Yes.
She took so much time developing them emotionally.
Yeah.
And like, if anything, the flowery language was to do with freedom and wanting, which I just thought was incredible.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Yeah.
Alexander.
Oh, buddy.
And that whole family.
I loved the part when we found out who he was and his connection.
Yes, we find out quite quickly that he is Aaron's brother.
Yes.
So her betrothed older brother, who she's had a little crushy on. And then you find out, she seems to think that he betrays his family, but you find out later that in fact he doesn't betray his family, he betrays her family. He tells them where they are, and it was because he basically joins the resistance towards the very end,
yeah,
almost the tail end. He sees where it's going, he jumps on this opportunity
almost in quite a cowardly way.
100%. And
I
I think
already won.
Yeah.
And he's thinking, okay, I need to go on the right side here.
Yeah, I think he says as much to her.
Yeah.
Before they have sex, or just after they've had sex or something.
Yeah.
And I really admired him
Me
for
too.
that.
Yeah. Because he wasn't this big, like, I've been working undercover. He was also a child.
Yeah.
He was only 2 years older than her.
Yeah.
So he wasn't kind of thinking, he wasn't going to rebellion meetings and,
No.
Working against them. He was just scared and saw how things were going to change and thought, well, I need to, there's self-preservation here. So.
Yeah. And I loved the reveal, because I never saw it coming, that Nihil, so Sonia's older man friend, not in that sort of way, he's a friend who's a man, he's a neighbour, they grow veggie together.
Lovely little, almost like father-daughter relationship going on.
Yeah, and you find out he's Alexander and Aaron's dad.
Yeah.
Ah!
When he comes
and he's
in
a
and they just look at
fucking
each other.
Monster!
I know. We don't know that though, because he seems lovely, because he grows vegetables and he makes
Oh,
soup.
I know.
And...
Fuck you, Veronica, for making me like this.
Yeah.
Oh, how cute is he? And he went and got the table by himself and everything. And then you find out that he's the one that sentenced everybody in the delegation.
So, how did you feel when Alexander came into the story? First thoughts.
Far be it from me to be an objectifying lady, but I was immediately like, God, is he in a suit? He just gave me this like authoritative sort of like manner about him.
Yeah.
It was clear there was a connection, or a prior connection, not even like a sexy connection, but yeah, just the tension.
Did you feel a little bit, because I know you don't like friends to lovers.
No, I do not. Well, not really. Only when it's done well.
Did you think,
I think different settings. I think you could have classified it as friends to lovers for sure, but I think we definitely start with, they're not enemies really, it's more like disgruntled employees or disgruntled colleagues to lovers.
Yeah.
But the angst, we were just talking about it before.
Top drawer when he makes her empty her pockets and he sees all the bits.
And he takes it.
And I'm thinking, is he going to take it? And he takes it, and I think, yes, he's a proper bastard. This is going to be hot.
It.
Yeah,
this is going to be hot.
Yeah.
But he keeps it. I do feel like he crumbles quite quickly though from that persona.
Yeah, he's trying to be this cold, like, you are scum, I've got the upper hand here, you know, you were a child of the delegation.
I'm morally better than you. Yeah,
actually,
sure.
he knows.
And when he gives her that, like, confession, you see it all. Another bit I would like to read out.
Of course.
And peak angst is when he's taking her back for the second time to the aperture. She's just had to meet Knox.
Okay, yeah.
And Knox has made her in the bar sing the delegation
That's
song.
the second time, because I'm sure the first time she only goes to her house.
It's
and
just
the
her,
records.
yeah. And he goes with her the second time because he's like, I've got to make sure you're not fucking around.
Yeah.
He says, but it's dark, so I'm going to walk you there. Go home, Alexander. You don't have to be so. How many times do you want me to debase myself in front of you? She demands. How many times will be enough? And I think for us, it's the first level of Sonia caring more. When we eventually find out the reason why she chooses to find Grace is because she's the one that dobs her in, which is just an incredible twist. I loved it. I didn't think we were going to get that level of a twist or any sort. I thought we were just going to be like, she just finds out. But this is the first time we really see Sonia snap at someone. Like, she's quite resigned. She's quite like, I don't want to do this. Oh, okay. I thought, and in her head, she makes those decisions that she probably owes it to this girl to try and find her.
And we don't know why she owes it.
Exactly, we don't know that. And she takes Alex's prodding. She takes him taking her stuff. She's quite cool and a bit like, yes, of course I'm going to see the renowned criminal. And then she even has the drink, does the song, still seems unaffected by it, and then has this outburst at him, and it's fucking hot.
I know, and the song part was so hard to read. It was awful.
Yeah, I sort of skimmed through it.
Oh yeah, when she had to sing basically the delegation song,
and then the fact that some of the people in the bar are singing along.
Yeah,
like just proof that it's just never really gone. Never really gone. Yeah, I love their relationship.
I love the relationship, and I think it was very organic. It moved along at a sensible pace. I didn't feel like it was rushed.
Nothing brings people together like life and death. So they're on the run. He's nearly died, and they bang him. The bang.
Makes sense to
I
do
love
it
it.
then.
Makes sense.
Makes
Yeah.
sense. Why wouldn't you?
The bit at the end where they get to have that. What did I write? Weeks long sex romp before she goes to the desert.
Yeah. Yeah, she gets her little moment in the sun with him, doesn't she, before she
Yeah.
goes and works in the desert. Like, that's nice. She still prioritises that, and you
Yeah.
would. You would. Yes, so I think it was... How does it kind of stack up for you in terms of other romances that you've recently read?
I think it's probably... I like sweeping statements. You guys will learn this about me as the months and years go on. I love a sweeping statement, and then I walk it back quite quickly, so beware of the roller coaster. I think it's probably one of the most believable we've read.
Yeah.
Purely because, not to say that any of the rest of them aren't believable,
Well...
but... Why? Which one's he talking about? Name and shame. But it does seem prior link there. If there was no prior link and we didn't get that, I would be like, oh, what, this has come out of nowhere. But you can tell they're fucking attracted to each other. They watch each other all the time.
Yeah, and he obviously has crippling guilt about the situation.
Nothing brings you closer together than crippling guilt about turning in your family to help a rebellion to save your own skin.
But yeah, if we didn't have that past connection, it wouldn't have been as good for me.
And I loved the scene where she goes and sees the photographs and they're touching, and it's like, oh, but it's forbidden.
Yeah.
Touchy.
Oh,
No, you
hot,
betrayed
hot,
to
hot.
brother. Yeah. Fun.
Knox.
We haven't really spoken about her a lot. I loved her.
Me
I
too.
thought she was insane, wonderfully unhinged, incredibly classic sort of like computer gal who's like, I know computers, but I've also got a heart of gold.
Yeah. And she wasn't really, well, we didn't think she was. We thought she was heartless and that she didn't really have an allegiance with either side. She does
what's good for her.
Yeah. Whoever's the highest bidder, she will work for them.
Yeah, for sure.
But then we find out that...
But then, she gives her she doesn't want to use the database for the imprints. She wants to take it so she can destroy it. And she gives Sonia all the information. Oh, when they find her body, I was genuinely upset.
I thought someone would die, but I don't think I thought it would be Knox.
I wasn't, because it got to a point where I definitely don't think the threat level was as high as I potentially thought it was going to be. For a government, and I keep saying nanny state, and I really got to stop saying it, but like a government that's always watching, I do think they got away with an awful lot more than they probably should have.
Yeah.
Especially considering how high profile she is and how often they told Alex to shut this case down. But by the by, sweeping that shit under the rug. I'm glad somebody did die. I'm sad it was Knox, but I understand why it had to happen. And also I think once she got the imprint database, there wasn't much more for her to do.
So you kind of saw that her storyline had came to a natural end anyway.
Yeah, when she gets her sort of hero, and like the bit where she's done it and it's a really long process towards the very end. She uses the last few bits to implicate Representative Turner and finds all the information and everything, and then she's gotten rid of it all, and it just says on the screen, thank you. Just a nice little goodbye to that.
I agree. Knox was a great character. Definitely, as you say, that kind of stereotypical, she's like hacker, we're in. But I agree. I think they served a purpose, and once that purpose was served, it was like, okay, what we're going to do with you.
Yeah. Also, Knox and our last Sonia passed the Bechdel test, where for those of you that don't know, the Bechdel test is a test which measures basically the representation of women in film and fiction, and it's basically when there's two women in a film and they're having a conversation that is not of the man or not about the men or their development or whatever. It's just about them. Or it's just about something else. It doesn't. As long as it's not a man, passes the Bechdel test. Will this be a common feature that we'll discuss? Maybe.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so it was nice to have Sonia and Knox talk about things that, were pertaining to the story that wasn't Alexander based, and that's why I think that added to the romance as well.
Yeah, the thing is, as well, is it felt to me very much like Alexander wasn't even like a second character.
No.
Like, Sonia was the main character.
Yeah, he existed for Sonia.
Oh, yeah.
Which I thought was a lovely... I mean, we're going potentially a bit further into it than anybody who would just commonly skim or read it would think. But yeah, he's made for Sonia to have the happy ending.
Yeah.
Alexander is there. It could have been any government official in his position. But it can't be anyone else but Sonia.
Yeah.
Yay! Feminism! We've made it! Woo! Equality!
Who else can we talk about? Do we have any other characters that we felt were standouts?
Grace's family. We find out ultimately, you know, the reason they restart the investigation or, you know, do it with a bit more luster is because there's a phone call that sounds like it's coming from Grace. Turns out it's not. It's from older sister. And it's just so heartbreaking because she has to tell this family. She goes and tells this family after she's found out that Grace is dead. She delivers that she's dead blow. And then she delivers, I'm the reason she was taken from you in the first place. And you know, I know they have no reason to be nice, but I was really shocked they weren't at least a bit more understanding.
I liked it though.
No, don't get me wrong. Yeah, I mean, I know I'm in the wrong here. And I was just... Because I felt so much for Sonia in that she had no reason to tell them.
She didn't have to say anything to them.
But I know that the mother takes it so wrong. She says, you know, you said this to lord this over us, you know, and Sonia's like, in no way, I mean, Sonia says nothing. She just leaves, and that's fair because there's nothing to say. But I'm there like, why would she tell you just to lord it over you?
I know.
Yeah, but no, I agree with you. It needed to be done.
Yeah.
Needed to be brutal.
It was brutal, and the response was brutal. And I think the fact that it's not like, oh yeah, so she remains good friends with that family, and she goes around and has a cup of tea. She
becomes the daughter they never got to have. Yeah,
no, they hate her.
Yeah, and that's fair.
And they blame her, and she'll have to live with that guilt.
Yeah,
for what she did. And you know, maybe that is the moral of the book, isn't it? That, you know, you make these decisions, and sometimes you can't undo them, and you've got to live with the consequences of them, and that's it.
Oh. What a way to end the section.
No, how depressing.
Final thoughts.
I don't think it's going to be a shock to anyone that we both absolutely fucking loved this book.
Oh, absolutely not. I immediately told Alex that he should read it. And I will, he has given us a little quick... this is what you guys need to be doing, telling us what you're thinking about books, potentially, I mean, hopefully ahead of time, but...
and we'll read them out.
But we will. So this is the first of hopefully many. Super interesting concept. He loved the fact that they quantify morality.
Lovely.
He said it's the opposite of the dice game by Luke Reinhardt, where every decision is random. This could be if you've read this, you would like maybe potentially the Dice Game by Luke Reinhardt.
Nice.
He loved that the drip feeding of world building was great. He said it was a bit hard to follow Sonia's inner thoughts given all the introspective time jumps, but he was still a really big fan.
Brilliant. It's great that we have someone else who also loved it.
Right? But it's Alex's bag, man. He loves alternate future. Almost not entirely all that alternate, but
I spent a whole car journey talking about it to Rory, and he
loves it now.
And he was like, right, I will read it, okay, because I was like, blah, 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 AI, blah, 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 blah. Wearable technology, blah, 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 and he was like, yep, okay, yeah.
No, loved it. Like, it's reawakened almost. I want to go and look for more dystopian stuff.
I was just going to say, at this stage we always say, if you love this, read that, and maybe that's what our recommendation is. Maybe Alex is providing us this.
Yeah,
because I haven't read any adult dystopian fiction.
And hey, if you guys haven't listened to any of the YA stuff we talked about in the first section, go and read that.
Oh yeah.
And you will have a great time with the Hunger Games. They're incredible. You'll have a great time with Ugly's Pretty Specials. I mean, look, don't hold much stock in specials.
Yeah.
The Chemical Garden,
Matched and Delirium. Yeah. And also read them and appreciate how hard it must be to make dystopian fiction accessible to young adults, because it is harrowing and it is a hard-hitting topic. But I can't wait to go and find some more adult dystopian fiction to read. Maybe
we'll bring it straight back to you guys.
Yeah, please recommend some. We would love to know. Also, if you haven't watched Black Mirror, anthology series that is all about the kind of perils of technology, go ahead and do that. And actually there is an episode called Nosedive, which has Bryce Dallas Howard in it.
Ah, big old stars.
And it is this concept.
Oh, fab.
So it is having a rating system, if you like, and moving up and down the rating system based on choices that you make.
Amazing. We've taken all our time up in the middle bit, and now we've got no time left, but we loved it. It was class. The world building was great. The characters were compelling. Roth's done it again.
She did it again, and it's not a long read, so Please give it a go.
And if you love this, go and read Chosen Ones. I've said it for the past 4 or 5 episodes.
It's high up my list. We can't do it for the podcast. I know it's one of your favourites, but I will definitely.
I'm so biased we can't do it for the podcast. Guys, thank you so much for listening. We will be taking a 2-week break. I am off to Australia. Amy is off to Rhodes. We cannot keep up.
We tried.
We do. Yeah,
we have a spreadsheet and everything.
We have a spreadsheet. What more do you want from us? So we're taking a 2-week break. We will be back with a mini-sode all about us, our bookish origins. Everything that started us reading, what our favourite reads are, everything. And, if you've listened to the last 2 mini-sodes, they're tangent-y as fuck.
So you'll a nightmare to edit, I'm sure.
But yeah, we will be returning on the 20th of May with bookish origins. So tune in then. Right, guys, we are on TikTok at Page Turners Pod. We are on Instagram at Page Turners Pod. Email us. No one has emailed us yet. If you are the first person to email us, I will send you any one of the books you want that we have read.
Yeah.
And it has to be a well thought out email about what you think. You can even complain. I don't care.
Laura, I love you, but it can't be you.
No, or Hannah, it can't be you too.
Okay.
You guys, it has to be somebody that we don't see on a regular basis.
But please do, email us. Tell us what you think. Give us a recommendation.
It has to be at least 200 words.
Oh,
there you go. That's the brief.
We'll send you a book that we have read.
Yeah, for the podcast. And so that is it. Podcast pageturners at gmail.com.
Yep.
And we love yous. Rate us 5 stars because we've lagged at 17 now.
I'm shamelessly just asking now.
I want to hit 20.
Yeah.
And then I want to hit 50.
Let's
and
start
then the
with
world. Happy reading, guys.
Bye.